Yeah. So now what we will do is we will see the next our next agenda is like we want to see conditional statement, right? This thing is done. The next thing is conditional statement. So when I say conditional statement is nothing but the if condition. Okay, so in other programming language also we will be having if things, right? If, else, if, and then else conditions. And also similarly, like here also we do have that concept. Okay, so if you type if, right, you will get it. So you can see this is available under workflow control, and then if you can ignore this thing, and you can see this if is available under workflow. Okay, so when we use if, why we need if? Yeah, suppose for a particular event there could be two scenarios, one is true scenario and the other one is false scenario, right? So in that case, like it can go into any way, right? Either on its either it can go to true side, or else if the result is false it will go to else side, right? So that's when we will use if conditional statements. Correct. Suppose let's take best example is order even. Okay, so number 2, like if a user enters the value 2, so the program will check whether the number 2 is odd or even. So if it is odd, then it will go to true block, and if it is even, then it will go to else block. Okay, so that's when we will be using if condition. Okay, so now what I will do is I will track that particular if activity. Okay, so I told you two things, right? One is true condition and the other one is false condition. And you can see then will act as a here. You are going to give whatever condition you want, right? That you are going to give over here. And then in the then block will act as a true block. Okay. And then else block will act as a false block. So in other programming language, how you will be writing if, let's consider this simple example. Number one is greater than, you want to check, the user will be providing two numbers, number one and a number two. Okay, you have to check which number is greater. Okay, so how you will be writing, you will be writing num1 greater than num2. So you will be writing like this. If this particular condition is true, if it is true, then it indicates num1 is greater, right? If the condition is false, if this condition is false, then which indicates num2 is greater, right? So this is how you will write in other programming language. Similarly, what are we going to do? Like we will get two input from the user, basically two number from the user, and from that we are going to check like number one is greater than number two or not. Okay, so again, what activity we have to use to get input from the user? Correct, exactly. So we'll use input dialog before this if condition. Just will give some random thing, and enter num1. I guess we already have. and then num2. So again we'll create one more variable for num2, control k num2. So now our job is done, and here again for num2 we'll change the data type to integer. So you will be not able to compare if it is a string, right? So that's the reason we are converting this to number. And here what we need to do, like here what we tried, like this is how you will write in other programming language, right? If num1 greater than num2, basically here that this particular if, right, this particular if you can consider as this particular activity name, and here you are just going to give the condition. So here what is the condition? This is the condition, whatever which we have inside the bracket, that is the condition. So you are going to give that particular condition over here, okay? So you can call num1 greater than and then num2. So now we have done with our condition, and you can see there is no error at all, okay? And if now we need to know, right, which number is greater. So to display the result, what we need to do, we have to use message box activity, right? So here I will be dropping one message box activity. So here the condition will be checked. Suppose if I'm entering the number 1 as 10 and then the number 2 as 20, right? So then in that case, here 10, it will check 10 greater than 20 or not. So it is not, right? So what it will do, it will not go to the then block, it will go to the else block, and whatever we have inside this else block, that will be getting executed, okay? So now what I will do is I'll give us num1. So here we are calling that num1. So whatever, if it is greater, right? Suppose number 1 we are giving us 20 and number 2 as 10. So here the condition is true, it will come to the then block. And here what are we trying to do is, here we are trying to give the num1 value, but this only is not sufficient, okay? So what are we going to do is, here we are trying to print the result, that is we are going to display the result something like this, okay? So if we give num1 as 10, it should print the result something like this: 10 is greater, okay? So how we can do that? Basically, this num1 is a integer data type, so we have given that directly. But here the next part is, we have to append these value also. How we can do that? So to do that, basically we have to do concatenation. Okay. So I'm giving plus, and then this is a string, right? Basically this is a text. So what we have to do, we have to always enclose the string data type within double quotes, right? That's what we have seen yesterday, correct? So I'm giving something like this, but still why are we getting error? So if you see the error description, so basically some typecasting is not working, okay? So here what it simply means is, this is your integer data type, but this is your string data type. So if you try to concatenate integer plus string data type, then you will be going to get error only, okay? So in that case, what you want to do is, you have to convert this integer to string. How you can do that? Now I'm going to show you that, okay? So this number 1 is a integer. After that number 1, what you can do is just put a dot, okay? So why are we putting a dot? If we put dot, right, you will be able to access some of the VB methods, okay? So now what we want to do, we want to convert the type integer to string, right? So if you type 2, right, so once you type 2, you will be getting a method called toString, okay? So this method is going to help us to convert the integer data type to string data type, okay? So now if I place my cursor over here, you can see the error is gone. So basically this we will call it as typecasting, okay? Converting from one data type to another data type is called as typecasting. Okay, so here it is a integer data type and we have successfully converted it to string data type. So now we will not encounter any error. Similarly, for else block also. So if this condition is not true, then else block, it will come to else block, right? So then num2 is the greater one. So num2, what we need to do? Yeah. So put a dot and then type to string. Okay. Then plus num2 is greater. Exactly. So now everything is done. So now what I will do, I will run it in step into manner so that you will be able to understand here where the flow is going. Okay. So if the condition is true, then where it is going. If the condition is false, then where it is going, that we need to understand more clearly. So let me do step into. Just remember for number one, I'm giving us 10 and for number two, I'm giving us 20. So now we know, right? The condition is true or false. So, correct. So let's see whether it is going or not. So when I hit step into right, it checked the condition and then it directly went to this particular thing and you can see 20 is greater is already assigned. Okay. So now if we do step into, then that particular value will be displayed to us. See, 20 is greater. Yeah, that we will see like when we use some complex things, right? So that time we will see. So this time we'll explore the true condition also. Okay. So we'll give the first value as 10 and the second value as 5. So now you can see it is directly getting into true block. So now we will get the result as num1 is greater, that is 10 is greater. Okay. Okay. So now we have seen for two numbers, right? What if like we are trying to get one more number from the user and we have to check like greatest among three numbers. Okay. So then how the logic will be? That also you should understand. If you understand this particular concept, then you can do anything with this if conditional statements. Okay. So now we're getting third number also. So first we'll see in the notepad, okay, how you will be writing the logic. First we will understand how the logic will be, post which like will implement the same in the UiPath Studio. How the logic will be. So you are getting three numbers, num1, num2, and then num3. For example, we'll keep it this is 30 and this is 20 and this is 10. So now we know the greatest among three number is 30. How we will write the logic? That's the question. So if it is a two number, we are comparing the first number with the second number, right? Similarly, like here we have three numbers. How we can compare? Hmm? Okay. 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 So if you do in that way, right? If you are checking like num1 is greater than num2, first that's what your logic is, right? So if you check that, then 20 will be greater, correct? Then again you will be going to check num2 is greater than num3 or not, right? But okay, this is also fine. This is also one of the thing. But what we can actually do is one more thing. Here we have something called as operator. Okay, so when I say operator, like it is like AND operator or operator. Have you heard of this thing? Yeah. So what this does, like if any one of the thing is true, suppose if I'm writing num1 greater than num2, and if I give or condition, and if I give num1 greater than num3, right? Sorry, greater than. So here, if any one of the condition is true, suppose here if your this particular condition is true and but this particular condition is false, in that case, even though if one of the condition is false, it will go to the true block only. Okay. So here, like the simple understanding, like if both the things are true, then it will be true. If any one of the thing is true, again it is going to be true only. If both the things are false, then only it will go to false block. Okay. It is for or operator. But for and operator, both the conditions should be true. Then only it will go to the true block. Okay. So now if we use this concept, right, now what are we doing? Num1 we are checking num1 greater than num2 or not. Okay. So 10 greater than 20 or not? No, right? It will return you false, right? So basically it is going to return you the boolean thing false. So if you use and, if any one of the thing is false, then it will directly go into false, because like here, if both the things are true, then only the final result will be true. Okay. If any one of the thing is false, then it will be considered as false only. And here we will be going to check num1 greater than num3, 20 greater than 30 or not. Sorry, 10 greater than 30 or not. No, right? Again. So both the thing is going to return you. This is also going to return you false, and this is also going to return you false. If both the things are false, then it will go to false block only. Okay. And next, what we will do is similarly, we'll write one more if condition to check num2 is greater than num1. Okay. And num2 is greater than num3. So now we are checking in this way. So what it will do? Num2 20 greater than 10 or not? It is true, right? It is greater than, right? 20 is greater than 10. So this particular thing, this particular condition is going to return us true. And it will come to this particular thing, and what it will check, num2, that is 20 is greater than 30 or not, it will check. So is it true or not? Yeah. So here it is, it returned true, but here it is returning false. So in that case, we will be going to get as false only, right? Because and operator will work if both the things are true, then only it is going to return you true. Correct. And so now we have compared for num1 and then num2, right? So now we know num1 is also not greater, and then num2 is also not greater. What is the remaining number? We have the remaining number num3 only. Again, do we need to check something like this by writing some condition, or we can directly consider like num3 is greater? Yeah, because we have already compared for two things. So now we are safe. So num3 will be the greatest one. So we can directly go into else block and we can say it is greater. Okay. So now we are going to implement the same thing. So here we have already checked num1 greater than num2. Now what we want to do? just type and, okay, similarly like how we did here, right? So just type and, so your and operator will be ready, and then the next one is you are going to check num1 greater than num3 or not. So now our first condition is in place, right? So this condition is in place. Now we have to implement the second condition, but where we can implement, because here if you see in this particular if we have only one place to add our condition, right? We don't have multiple things, something like this. Correct. So here itself, if you see, we have added the first condition in first if, and we have added the second condition in the next if only, right? That is this. If you have multiple if things, right, then we will call it as nested if. Okay, just remember that term. So here we have one if, that is for first condition. Okay. Now the we have written the second condition, right? That is this particular condition where we need to write it. So here first of all, if number one is greater, if both the conditions are true, then it will come to the then block, and we will be going to get something like this only, correct? But what if number one, suppose if any one of the condition is false, then it will directly jump into else block, right? In else block, here you don't have option to write your condition, that is like this condition. But what we can do is you can drag this if activity inside the else block, so that it will act as else if. Okay, you know this term, right? Else if. So inside if, like if you want to add some more condition, right, then in that case we will go with else if. Okay, so it will act as else if. So you don't need to get confused. Okay, so if the condition is true, it is going to the then block. If the condition is going to be false, then it will get into else block, and inside else block we have one more if block. So why we have one more if block? We are going to check the next condition, num2 greater than num1 and num2 greater than num3. So we are going to check this particular condition. So if this particular condition is true, both the things are returning true. Assume both the things are returning true. Then in that case, like num2 is the greatest one, right? If both the conditions is returning true, then num2 is the greatest one. Suppose if this is also returning false, then where it will go? It will directly get into else block. Now we know, like only if this is false, then it will get into this condition, right? So which means num1 is not greater. And again, if this is also false, we have checked for two things, num1 is smaller and num2 is smaller. So directly we can say in the else block as num3 is greater, right? Getting it right? Yeah. So now we will check this thing. Okay, so now I will show you one more concept called breakpoint. So why we use breakpoint is, suppose I don't want to run these three things in stepwise manner, like by clicking on step into step into step into. Instead of that, what I want to do is I want to run these three things in a single go. I wanted to stop the bot in this particular place, not stop, I want to pass the run in this particular place. Post that, what I can do is I can do step into. Okay, so that's what we are trying to do. So how you can enable the breakpoint? Just select the activity where you want to add the breakpoint. Okay, and then just click on this button, or else by doing right click also you can do that. See here, you will be having for now. Okay, what I will do is I will do right click on this activity, and then you can see something called as toggle breakpoint, right? If you click that, the breakpoint will be added. You can, how you can remove the breakpoint? Just do click and this red icon should completely go off. Okay, again if you do one more click, that red icon will go off, which indicates breakpoint is disabled now. Okay, so now if I click on debug file, I don't need to click step into. Okay, so I have clicked on debug file. So what it will do, it will ask me 10, and then parallel again it will ask 20, and then it will ask for number 3, so I have given us 30. See, now the execution got passed, right? Till this point of thing it didn't got passed, but at this point it got passed. That's the use of breakpoint. Okay, so it will be very useful in debug mode. And if I click step into, 10 is greater than 20 or not. Here we are checking that only, right? In the first if condition, we are checking num1 is greater than num2 and num1 is greater than num3. So now tell me 10 is greater than num2 or not. Yeah, so basically it is the first condition itself going to return you false. So it will directly get into this else block, right? So let's see. See, it directly went to this else block, and now it is going to check num2 is greater than or not. So now tell me, like 20 is greater than 10, correct? So it will return true. But num2 is 20 is greater than 30 or not. Exactly. So here you have one more, here we have one more else block. So it will directly get into this else block, and it is going to return us 30 is greater. Correct. So now we'll see for number 2 is greater than approach. Okay. So again we'll do debug file. We'll give 10, 20, and then we'll give us 5. Okay. So now we know the greatest among three number is num2, right? So the first condition will obviously will get failed, because the first this condition itself going to return as false. So it will get into this particular else block, and here again we are checking num2, that is 20 greater than 10 or not. So it is going to return as true, and again we are checking 20 is greater than 5 or not. So again it is going to return as true. So both the conditions are true. So it will directly get into this particular message box. See, it is getting into this particular message box. So now job is done. So the execution will get completed.